The music show for November 4th, Beeps and Boops, as described by the ignorant Leonot. And the playlist also organized by Leonot. Thank you. This is Super Nintendo music. Wonderful, wonderful sound chip designed by Sony. Introduced samples among those wonderful Beeps and Boops. This is from the SimCity soundtrack. We're going to start off with a classic from Donkey Kong Country 2, Sticker Brush Symphony. Not an extended version. What a crime. All right, so that was Sticker Brush or Sticker Bush Symphony. What a wonderful, 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 wonderful tune. And it's, I mean, the really cool thing that this fella can do. What was his name? David Wise? Yeah, David Wise. He was probably the king of ambient music. In the terms of there's always rhythms, so these rhythms that kind of float and are kind of trippy. The chords that he uses, the arpeggios, the effects he does to make things feel like they're sort of floating. To me, his music kind of feels vertical, like it just sits there and it goes, like it floats up, like it feels like you're descending down into a beautiful ocean, and there's bubbles and creatures rising up all around you. He's one of the greatest of all time. This song is a real treasure. And what a glorious entry to start the show off. All right, next up from Romancing Saga, Coup de Grâce, Last Battle. Hold on to your butts. Wow, this is amazing. This is right up my alley. I need to add this to some kind of a list of my own. Let's see here. SNES music. Sure. There's a lot of like sort of musy, classical, romantic period movement and counterpoint. This is fantastic. But that like really kind of galloping, epic, elegant. Oh man, I mean this was such a huge jump. Like this may sound like beeps and boops to a fool like Leon, but to anyone else who can imagine themselves, who has an ounce of creativity and can think, what would it be like for people to play the NES and then the Genesis and then this that has these samples where now you can have pretty cool drum sounds. The Genesis was great at having drum sounds, but like a whole orchestra and a rock orchestra. Oh, I love it. Oh yeah, I love it. All right, next up, Pumpernickels. The next one is called Aria di Mezzo Carattere from Final Fantasy VI. I'm going to guess this is the opera. A real, true opera scene. This might not be it, is it? That was pretty good. That's another thing where, could you imagine if you were used to playing Final Fantasy games on your NES, and then to have this ability to have not only an orchestra, but to use it as an orchestra. Have these operatic voices while you're doing a really cool heist that has this emotional moment in it. It's such a beautiful peak in the game. Welcome, Judson. Those first opening notes sound like the Aerith theme. Boom, boom, boom. Is that not just Final Fantasy VII? Ba-da-da. Boom, bam, 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 bam. Da-do-do. I mean, what more can you say about it? It was a really exciting time for people, and I really love that whole moment of... it's something like the campy stuff you could do a little differently back then, I think, because more of it was in your mind. You know, like the purple slime guy and somebody suplexing a train. As opposed to, like, I see the same stuff in, say, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I wonder, is the reason I don't like it just because it's voiced, but it's kind of like they have more control over it, right? Yeah, he's an octopus, I'm sorry. Oh boy. Yay. An octopus, that's why he's so smart. Yeah, maybe it's like in the newer games, once they added voice. Like when you think of Final Fantasy X, and you think of voices for Final Fantasy characters, I think of Tidus, and you think of Van, and you think of that guy in a motorcycle. And those kind of voices were never in my head. Ultros, that's what I'm talking about. When I think of like Final Fantasy 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, like I don't read the main character of 9, Little Monkey Boy, sounding like Tidus. But if they remade it, they would make him sound like Tidus.
Yeah, come on, let's go. I'm gonna save you, princess. I'm a monkey who can act. And we're thieves.
They should just have, at the end of every Final Fantasy game, they should bring him in and he should suplex the credit sequence. Yeah, he was pretty good. In the remake of it. We were listening to we were trying all the different voices out, and the French dub is really good for everybody except Cloud. Lena, you actually had a good way of putting it. He sounded like an old noir detective, but everybody else in that cast was pretty good. They just toned it down. Even the Japanese voices were like way toned down. For some reason, the English ones, they got all these English actors who do Japanese stuff. They were so over the top. All right. Speaking of ActRaiser, this is from the ActRaiser OST. It's called Fillmore. Hyper. Regadon. what I'm finding is a lot of the stuff, you could hear it kind of go a little bit out of tune. Sometimes the Super Nintendo stuff had a way of being a little bit out of tune. I don't know what that was, like a flaw with the kit or something. The Master Jam did some hopping monkey monsters. Yeah, I'll add this one. This sort of like Dorian scale, galloping, epic, fun, but like righteous, dramatic rock sound was really big in this era, and the Super Nintendo was so good at this like orchestral rock hybrid with that scale. Wonderful. I thought somebody's behind me, but I think they're above me. Or beside me. I don't know. Alright, that was fantastic. ActRaiser. Next up is from Killer Instinct. This is Killer Cuts the Instinct. This is actually the arcade version of it. And it includes a paid promotion, I guess. A rendition. My cat just knocked down so much stuff behind me. She knocked off like a 12-foot living edge, 12 foot by 2 feet board I had. It's causing a ruckus. Don't worry, we'll put her down. Real 16-bit. I had a lot of fun with Killer Instinct. Me and my cousin, who played a lot of We played a lot of Super Nintendo together. We played like a shit ton of Street Fighter, which was always the best. But we would branch off and play a bit of Killer Instinct. Learning the combos and doing the combo breakers was actually pretty decent. I'd say it had more depth than Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was probably a lot more flashy, I think, without being... Although, what I liked about Mortal Kombat was it was very simple. Mortal Kombat 2 especially. There weren't really a lot of combos. The stuff you would have to memorize were just the fatalities at the end. It wasn't like trying to remember like a 10-hit combo where it just becomes more about how much can you remember in a string as opposed to like rock, paper, scissors and faking people out and worrying about reflexes as opposed to just typing in a bunch of commands, which is what I didn't like about the combos in Tekken. Oh, I was always BB Orchid, baby. Boobs Orchid. But yeah, I liked Mortal Kombat 2. Reptile, Sub-Zero, Shang Tsung, Baraka, Riptor. Fantastic. I think it had a nice theming too, this sort of like dark sci-fi. I feel like the theming for Killer Instinct, the way the characters looked, was pretty ahead of its time for what a lot of characters of games would look like. Moving on up. All right. Boom. What's next? Oh my god. I think it's going to be from Final Fantasy V. It's called Clash on the Big Ol' Bridge. Man, you can hear that cymbal, that hi-hat right in your ear. Wow. From Final Fantasy V, a game that was not released in the States for quite a long time, right? Had a job system, beautiful Super Nintendo graphics. I haven't played more than a few hours of it. I played the opening where you land on the ground, you like look for chocobo and stuff. Had a nice... The vibe I got from it was that it was very colorful and had a lot of exploration and had a nice vibe. And the job system is just fits so well for RPG games. I think it gives you more of a sense of D&D or actually playing a role where you're deciding what your character is going to be and how they're going to grow throughout this long journey. Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't fit in Final Fantasy V. It's just when I hear this music, it seems so wacky. It reminds me of the more modern Final Fantasy stories that are so wacky and crazy. What a great track. Oh yeah, we've had a lot of this Final Fantasy music on before. We did like a whole Uematsu episode, or we do a Final Fantasy episode? I think we just did Final Fantasy. Next up, let's bring it way down. Down the elevator into the depths of a different planet, of Bryn Star, overgrown with vegetation area. Almost sounds like Donkey Kong. Ooh. Steflon, yeah, you're right. Or Claudio. Atmospheric, catchy, funky, jungly. It's got the most life out of a Metroid game. It definitely sounds like you're hearing something that's kind of dancey, kind of funky, but the way that the bass moves, the way that the bass sounds, it sounds like it's from another world. It sounds like you're listening to some kind of like dance music that is alien. The way that those volume swells, kind of the scales that they're using, this like industrial weird beat with kind of things that like those bow bow, they kind of come in situations where you wouldn't expect them at different times, which gives it this alien feel, otherworldly feel. It's perfect. Metroid's not a series that I usually jump into because I don't really like backtracking, but I love Hollow Knight. I love Ori and the Blind Forest. I really love Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I did play Out of This World. That's kind of like Flashback? That's one of those ones where you walk through and you die every few seconds and you have to learn how to like basically do a perfect run to get through. I can't remember that where you walk through and like the spike comes up and hits you in the leg and you die. That was great. Thanks, Metroid. Alright, we are back. Oh, no. Illusion of Gaia. This is called Lorai Cliff. That was really nice. Nice and chill. It does sound like somebody is playing the drums on the top of a trash can. I would have really loved games like this. I mean, growing up with the Genesis, it's such a shame when I think of the games that I had on Sega Genesis. Some were amazing. Road Rash, one of my favorite games of all time, and Shadowrun, of course. Sonic 1 and 2, sure. The wrestling games were like mediocre, but they were fun. Then I had games like E-SWAT, Cyborg Justice. It's like terrible football games. Desert Strike, that was another really good one. It was kind of half and half. There were just awful games. I would have killed to have a game like this that you could play. Like, how long is this? 30, 40 hours? Subterranea? Nope, I didn't have that one. Oh yeah, Sega had great music. But I feel like I was really missing a big RPG other than Shadowrun. Because, I didn't have that many games, right? And they were also short. And what made them long was difficulty. I had Thunder Force too. That was Thunder Force 3 as well. That was a really good one, but also very, very difficult. These Cyborg Justice tunes were in your Stalker videos. Oh, cool. I'll have to listen to them sometime. Oof. No, it was kind of limited, like the visual style that they could do, and I think the memory that they had on the system wasn't great for it. Although Shadowrun was fine. I still have to do my amazing Shadowrun video, but I never know how to properly display to the world. Next up, Final Fantasy IV Battle with the Four Fiends. Another really epic track. I wonder if this is one of the first ones that is this super epic, ambitious boss title of a lot of these kind of like boom, ba, kind of classical, a lot of hits on the offbeats and multiple movements and going all over the place. I don't know if they had that kind of stuff in Final Fantasy 3, 2, and 1, but this is really, really epic. All right, let's calm it down. Next up is from Earthbound. This is called Your Name, Please. Yeah, I can see that. Good multi. That almost sounds like a Genesis track with this sort of like shifty kind of drum beat and bass, but like this is the kind of bass you could do on the Super Nintendo you couldn't do with the Genesis. Is making it sound like someone's playing a fretless kind of jazzy bass. Like you can get that stand-up sound, fretless sound. You could just do so much more with the Super Nintendo. Even if the samples are very compressed, you could still bring out the character. And because all of the sounds had the same sort of compression, they worked well together, right? The ad saying, "This game stinks!" Yeah. Let's see that. This game stinks. Earthbound. This game stinks! This bug stinks! Faxanadu. Yes, I've played that. It's kind of like... It's a side-scrolling, almost like Zelda RPG action game. Really, really, really strange game. Next up is Lufia 2 Sinistral Battle Theme. pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like hearing a lot of this Super Nintendo JRPG stuff, there was definitely a way that they were all composing. Their styles were influencing each other. It's this rock hybrid with orchestral, a lot of hard hits, multi-parts, using a lot of that Dorian scale, everything kind of sounding dramatic, heroic. It's fun, but it definitely there was a style. And as you're going through the tracks, it's sort of starting to lose its impact on me. All right. Fuck Sanadu. Next up, Romancing Saga 3 Magical Tank Battle, baby. Very 80s. Early 90s. That bass sounds so gritty and rock. Is this the original SNES music while it's loading? The bass, like the grit of that rock picked bass sound, and the way they do the those synth sounds, like so crystal clear. I would think this is from a remake or something, like maybe a DS remake, because especially when you look at the title, like that wouldn't have been art from from back then. That looks way more modern. This whole title sequence doesn't want to load anymore. All right, well, let's move on. That was really nice. Magical Tank Battle. I've never heard of this one. This is called Axley. The title of the song is Mother. Mother. Yeah, Sega games are fantastic. The comments did, and now they're back. They are back. That was who? Ito was the fella doing this? Very enthusiastic walks. Kenji Ito. very interesting. It's like a real kind of like bouncy, fun, kind of a goofy track that I don't even understand what that game was. There was like a big red sort of ferocious something or other, and then you had like some kind of ship that looked very, very organic. And yeah, a lot of these tracks were only maybe about a minute and a half long or something, or a few minutes, a little longer. The NES tracks, a lot of them were like 40-second loops. Oh, it was a scrolling shooter. It's a very like organic sound for a scrolling shooter, which is interesting because I did get like a more of an organic vibe from the cover art of that. Oh, very interesting. This next track is from UN Squadron. This really sounds like Star Wars. Well, that was a pretty interesting track in the way that it was very sort of constant, like just a constant tension behind it, you know? It doesn't seem to ever actually let go and like exist. It sounds like something that you would hear more of in between, like maybe like for a cutscene from one of these old games, just setting things up, setting the stage. It really feels like you're waiting for that note to finally get boom, but it just kind of plays around it like da, ba, 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 da, whoa. You're like, oh my god, please will you just play? Will you just get to that bloody note? What's going on here, Muhammad and Samet? What are you doing? Well, we're doing our favorite Super Nintendo music. I don't know what you guys are doing, putting in a lot of stickers. The police are here. What are you waiting for? Start the game. Start the game already. Yeah, exactly. Next up, this is from Magic Sword. Get a load of this cover art. Oh, yeah, very suggestive. I have no idea what this is going to sound like. The Magic Sword has him. Yeah, good call, Chris. Yeah, this is very, very cheesy. I don't know what the Japanese one looked like. Let's see. Japanese version cover Magic Sword. It's going to take an hour to download. Yeah, oh yeah. Well, he's always facing his enemies, and no one would ever stab him in the back. He's too magical and swordy. It definitely looks like that sort of Dolph Lundgren, He-Man, 80s style. Like, even this girl's hair, too, is very, like, this very 80s bouffant, big, dry, gross hair. Maybe kind of like late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. He-Man versus a dry Bowser. So long, Bowser. Magic sword. Pretty fun, pretty bouncy, pretty emblematic of the times. A lot of music kind of had that bouncy Dorian scale, kind of sliding up and down, mix of like rock organ and rock stuff. It's just like incredibly generic. And then this guy with his big sort of like front piece that he's got going on. Okay, this next one I believe is our last track of the day. I was born in 1984, but I grew up liking 90s stuff, and I didn't make the name. But we do, I like stuff in the 90s. Ropes and Roper. This is the last one. I think it's from Battletoads. Battletoads and Double Dragon. Really kind of creepy sound effects in the back there. This is David Wise doing this one? Nice. So you had the Double Dragons, you had Battletoads, you had David Wise. It's a nice track. Really fun, kind of like really bouncy, dancey percussion. Some kind of like warm and different sounding synths. Those like kind of David Wise, very kind of like fruity, organic, tubular kind of sounding percussion. Some like badass guitar mixed with these like kooky horns. Great stuff. Super Nintendo was great. I mean, in terms of you would think a lot of the stuff would sound similar, and I would say that a lot of the JRPG stuff did. But there was still a pretty good variety in this list. So thanks everybody that submitted a nice variety. Okay. So for our next one, it'll be Sega games. So it's either games published by Sega, or you can pick stuff that was on the Sega console. So Genesis, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, that kind of thing. Or Sega published. No, that's... Let's talk about this. All right. If you're watching the high quality version of this on YouTube, bye. Thank you very much. See you next time.